Join the conversation.
Join the conversation.
You're with CapeTalk.
It's 23 minutes past 4 o'clock. The Franschhoek Literary Festival is well underway. And as I mentioned earlier, the streets are heaving with people and the parking lots are full. Watching people trying to find parking close to a venue at which they hope to hear some interesting literary conversation is quite fascinating. They are prepared to park almost anywhere so that they do not have to walk another 150 meters. And there are lots of really interesting book people there, and I'm looking forward to being back there tomorrow and Sunday. If you are somebody who likes that kind of action man thriller, it's a sort of subgenre where somebody has been in special forces and they are either still in the special forces or they've left special forces and they are used either for good or for bad, using the incredible skills that they developed when they were working for special forces in France, in America, in special boat services or the SAS or whatever the case may be. Mark Greaney has a series called The Grey Man series, and the Grey Man is a bloke called Court Gentry, and he's possibly the deadliest man on earth. He knows 132 ways to kill you, and he's learning 3 new ways every day. And he's not like Jack Reacher, 6'6" and 250 pounds. He is quite modest looking, a bit like George, really. You look at him and you don't think, wow, stone-dead killer, but that's Court Gentry. And his time with, so first he worked officially for the Americans, and then he worked unofficially for the Americans on tasks that they didn't want the world to know about, and then they decided he turned against them, and then they tried to kill him. So the Russians are trying to kill him, his American previous bosses are trying to kill him, a whole assortment of nasty people from around the globe are trying to kill him, and hey, he's staying alive. And the latest in the series, I think it's the 7th or 8th, is called Burner, and it has to do with leaked financial secrets from the Kremlin, which would lay bare the money that the Kremlin is spending, exercising influence in the West, and so on, and he has to stop this. He has to grab that, and he has to stop the Russians killing him, has to stop some freelance actors from killing him, and he has to re-fall in love with his erstwhile lover, Zoya Sakharova, and he has to get her off her alcohol and drug binge. Hey, the man is so busy! But he manages to pull it all off. As these, if you don't like this kind of thing, then you're not going to like this book. But if you like that sort of Andy McDab type book, then the Mark Greaney Grey Man thrillers would probably give you quite a lot of pleasure. The latest one is called Burner. And then I suppose this is speculative fiction more than literary fiction, perhaps somewhere between the two. A new book by John Marrs. A lot of people have told me that I should look at a series called The One, and The One was based on an earlier John Marrs book. And the latest book is called The Marriage Act, and it's set in Britain in the near future? It's not exactly specified, but there are enough similarities with the Britain of today to suggest it's not 100 years into the future, it's perhaps 10, 15, 20 years into the future. And a right-wing government, so considerably more conservative than the Conservative Party, has come into power, and it's come up with the Sanctity of Marriage Act. This is the answer to society's ills, is to make marriage the ultimate aim. And so it rewards people who get married, it gives them tax rebates, and it gives them grants, and it gives them access to great housing, and it punishes those who choose to remain single. So in return for guaranteed employment and rewards and decent housing, you have to accept Big Brother in your marital home. You have to allow them to install listening and visual devices. And you're constantly given inspirational messages about how great marriage is, and you'll hear a voice saying, "There appears to be disharmony in this marriage. We suggest that you sort things out very, very quickly. Otherwise, the Sanctity of Marriage Act might be brought to bear upon you." And most people accept this. It's a trade-off that they will accept because of the rewards, financial, material rewards it gives. But what happens if you don't like that? What happens if you want to be single or you want to be a couple but not married? How do you navigate this terrain? And it's really trenchantly observed and well written, and the characters are neatly drawn, and the society comes across as being something that could quite easily, in the not too distant future, befall us. It's called the Marriage Act. Your relationship is being monitored. Break your vows, pay the price. By John Marrs. That's Marrs. And then Sabrina Imbler is an American journalist, and Sabrina prefers the pronoun they. So somebody who has a gender-fluid identity and wants to be referred to as they. And they have written a book called How Far the Light Reaches, which is a collection of 10 quite sparkling essays about 10 sea creatures and a connection between that sea creature and the way it lives its life and the threats it has to face in the ocean from other creatures in the ocean and from man, and what man does to earth and to ocean, and connects that to trying to live a life on earth. So it's just the aspect of being an account of a creature that is deep, deep, deep under the sea. It's extraordinary. But then the way she draws these parallels between being sexually assaulted on Earth and what happens to the sand striker, which is this just completely bizarre, it's about 3 meters long worm, and she talks about the way that humanity is chemically poisoning other humans, chemically poisoning the sea, and it's you kind of go, wow, I never would have thought of connecting A to B. But A is fascinating. B is something I'm kind of aware of on Earth. And who knew that A and B were connected in this extraordinary way? And so it's a lot about identity. It's a lot about the attempt of these strange, exotic, sometimes shallow sea, sometimes deep, sometimes very deep sea creatures. I mean, the Yeti crab lives 7,000 feet under the surface of the sea. And it doesn't feel there's too much pressure on me. It just really chills in that environment. And how we need to create an environment on Earth that allows some people who are currently seen as different to feel as chilled as the Yeti crab. It's called A Life in 10 Sea Creatures, and it is by Sabrina Imbler.